Sign it before noon, my father said, sliding a folder across the breakfast table like it was already decided. I looked from him to my mother, then to my older brother Grant, who was leaning back in his chair with that small, satisfied smile he wore whenever I was about to lose something. It's a family correction, Dad said. On the first page, my name was typed under a paragraph I had never agreed to. It said I was releasing control of my grandmother's trust so it could be restructured for the family's benefit. My mother folded her hands. Lena, don't make this dramatic. I turned one page. The date printed beside my blank signature line was yesterday. My 19th birthday. Less than 24 hours earlier, I had quietly moved my entire inheritance into a protected trust. And none of them knew I still had the final notarized document. The dining room felt staged. My birthday flowers were gone from the center of the table, replaced by coffee cups, legal papers, and my father's watch ticking beside his plate. He never took that watch off unless he wanted someone to notice time running out. Grant tapped the folder. Grandma left you more than you can handle. My company can actually use it. I stared at him. You barely visited her. His smile twitched. Mom stepped in fast. Your brother has responsibilities, employees, investors, a future. Your grandmother would have wanted the money used where it mattered. Where it mattered. I was the one who sat beside Grandma during chemo. I was the one who read to her when her eyesight blurred. I was the one she squeezed by the wrist and whispered, "Don't let them explain your own life to you." Dad pushed a pen toward me. This is not optional. What happens if I don't sign? His eyes finally met mine. Then you can find your own car, your own room, and your own tuition. Every privilege this family gave you can disappear. That was when I understood. They had not called me downstairs to ask. They had called me downstairs to take. My fingers stopped on a second page tucked beneath the signature sheet. It was a transfer request. And across the top in stamped blue ink it said, "Pending." If I had not moved the money last night, would they already own everything? I did not touch the pen. Dad's jaw tightened first. Mom inhaled like I had slapped her. Grant stopped tapping the folder. Why is the transfer request already dated? I asked. No one answered right away. Then Mom gave a soft, wounded laugh. Lena, listen to yourself. Your father is trying to protect this family, and you're acting like we dragged you into court. You put my name on paperwork before I agreed. Dad leaned forward. Do not sit there and pretend you're some helpless victim. This family has carried you for 19 years. Grant scoffed. The money is wasted sitting under your name anyway. You don't have a plan, I do. If your company is doing so well, I said, why do you need Grandma's trust? His smile disappeared. That was the first crack. For the last month, Dad had asked odd little questions about Grandma's attorney. Mom had left estate housekeeping, papers outside my bedroom with sticky notes already marking the signature lines. Grant had suddenly started calling me kiddo again, like we were close. Now all of it had a shape. I stood up, taking the folder with me. Mom followed me into the hallway. Her voice dropped so low the others could not hear. Do you know what refusing this would do to your brother? I looked at her. Do you know what signing it would do to me? Her face hardened. Your grandmother pitied you, Lena. That's the only reason she left it to you. For 1 second I could not move. Then I held up the folder. I want copies of every document you expect me to sign. No, she said too quickly. Dad appeared behind her. The family lawyer will explain everything at lunch. Grant walked past me, picked up my phone from the hallway table and slipped it into his pocket. You can have it back, he said, after you stop acting confused. The lunch was not at a lawyer's office. It was at the country club. The moment Dad opened the private dining room door, I understood why he had taken my car keys before we left. Grant's main investor was seated beside 2 board members from his company. Mr. Harlan, the family lawyer, sat at the head of the table with a leather portfolio open in front of him. Mom touched my back and guided me inside like I was a nervous child. Lena just needs reassurance. Dad smiled at the room. She's the beneficiary. Not granddaughter, not person, beneficiary. Grant pulled out a chair for me, but his hand stayed on the back of it until I sat down. Mr. Harlan began smoothly. This is a temporary consolidation of family assets. The trust would support Grant's company through a short-term liquidity issue, and Lena would be taken care of later. Later how? I asked. He blinked. That can be discussed once the restructuring is complete. I looked around the table. Did my grandmother's trust allow business investments? Harlan paused. Dad's smile thinned. Circumstances changed after your grandmother's passing, Harlan said. One investor leaned toward me. Miss Whittaker, do you understand your refusal could affect real employees, families? Grant did not defend me. He let the sentence sit there heavy and public, while every face turned toward me. Then a waiter stopped beside my chair and set down a folded napkin. Inside was a phone. Maya, my friend from school, stood near the service door and gave the smallest shake of her head toward Grant. I turned the phone on under the table. 3 missed calls from Marisol Keene. Grandma's attorney. The newest voicemail played barely above a whisper. Lena, do not sign anything. Their filing hit the county system this morning, but your protected trust was recorded first. Dad placed a pen beside my plate. Mr. Harlan leaned in and said, once she signs, the earlier problem disappears. The earlier problems. Mr. Harlan said it like paperwork could be swept under a rug if I gave them the right signature in time. I looked at Dad. He was not surprised. I looked at Mom. She was staring at my hands, not my face. Grant whispered, don't make this worse. I stood, I need the restroom. Dad's chair scraped back. Lena. I said I need the restroom. For once, the room was public enough that he could not grab my arm or order me to sit, so he smiled tightly and let me leave. In the hallway, I locked myself inside the first restroom stall and called Marisol. She answered on the first ring. Tell me you haven't signed. I haven't. Good, your protected trust became active yesterday at 4:42 p.m. Their transfer was filed this morning. It cannot override yours. My knees nearly gave out. Then her voice sharpened. But Lena, they attached a preliminary consent form. It includes what appears to be your signature. The sticky notes, the blank forms, Grant taking my phone, the meeting full of witnesses. They were not trying to convince me. They were trying to make the forgery look real. I photographed the breakfast documents I had hidden in my bag and emailed them to Marisol. Then I turned on the phone's recorder, slipped it into my pocket, and walked back into the private room. Dad's face darkened. That took too long. Mom whispered, you are embarrassing us. Grant gave the investors a tired smile. She's always been unstable when money comes up. I stayed standing. Mr. Harlan, I said clearly, why did you submit a transfer using my signature before I signed anything today? Silence hit the table. Harlan's face changed before his mouth did. I don't know what you're referring to, he said. Then the door opened. The club manager stepped inside and said, Ms. Keene is here to see Lena Whittaker. Marisol Keene walked in carrying a sealed folder against her chest. She did not look at my parents first, she looked at me. Lena, she said, are you all right? Before I could answer, Dad stood. This is a private family meeting. Marisol turned to him. No, Martin, this became more than private when a transfer request was filed using my client's consent before she gave it. Mr. Harlan closed his portfolio. There may be a misunderstanding. Then explain it, Marisol said, placing the sealed folder on the table. Why was a transfer request submitted this morning when Lena's protected trust was recorded yesterday at 4:42 p.m.? Grant's chair creaked. Mom looked at Dad, Dad looked at Harlan's. And in that tiny exchange, everyone at the table saw the truth before anyone said it. Marisol opened the folder and removed the document I had signed on my birthday. Evelyn Whittaker left clear instructions. When Lena turned 19, she had the right to move the entire inheritance from her grandmother into a protected trust. No parent, sibling, spouse, or family company can access it without Lena's independent approval. One of Grant's investors slowly pushed back from the table. Dad's voice dropped. That document was not supposed to be filed yet. Marisol looked at him, but it was. I reached into my bag and pulled out Grandma's old recipe binder. The cover was cracked, the pages soft from years of use. Inside the lining was the final notarized copy, the one my family had never cared enough to search for. I laid it beside Marisol's folder. Grant stared at it like it was a blade. The whole plan was suddenly visible. They had believed my trust was still exposed. They filed a transfer with a copied version of my signature, then staged this lunch to force me into signing the real consent form in front of witnesses. Once I signed, the forgery would look like preparation instead of fraud. Mr. Harlan's face had gone pale. I was provided signed authorization. Dad snapped, it was standard preparation. That one sentence broke the room. The investor stood fully. Grant, you told us the capital was secured. Grant opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Another board member gathered his papers. This should have been disclosed. Mom reached for Dad's arm. He pulled away, already trying to decide who to blame. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I touched the final document and said, "You do not get to call it family when I am only included as the account number." Within days, Grant's emergency funding collapsed. His board removed him from control while they investigated whether he had misrepresented secured capital. Harlan's firm reported the filing to protect itself. My parents hired separate attorneys after the forged signature became part of the record. The story moved through our social circle fast. The selfish daughter became the daughter who had followed the law. The responsible son became the son who had built his rescue plan on money he did not own. At home, the threats lost their teeth. Dad could not hold tuition over me because the protected trust paid the school directly. Mom could not threaten my bedroom because I moved into a small apartment arranged through Marisol's office. Grant could not take my phone, my documents, or my voice again. I cut contact except through attorneys. From the house, I took only Grandma's recipe binder, the birthday card Marisol had saved from the signing, and the final document that turned their ambush into evidence. My life became quieter after that, smaller maybe but safe. I started studying finance, not because I loved money, but because I was done letting people use paperwork as a weapon against me. On my 19th birthday, I protected my inheritance. The next morning, my family proved exactly why my grandmother wanted me to.